Dan Coates, welcome to the club, Club Clutch.
Thank you very much. I brought something just so I feel a little bit more welcome. How's this?
Nice hat. You got a moose on there?
There's a moose. It says Canada.
The
What
moose
else?
and the caboose.
This is from Banff. Doesn't get much more Australian in Canada than that, right? Banff. I'm not going to wear it.
And you've
but
got
I
your
just thought I'd bring
Garnets.
it.
You got your Garnett jersey, Boston jersey. I actually want to start. We're going to talk about playoffs, but did you see the Celtics score 53 points in the first quarter today?
I did, John. I did. It was up on the background at work, and that was glorious. The scoring, like not just this game, but the last week of scoring across the league, we've seen 150s and just some massive scores. It is high time for some defense. So I'm looking forward to the playoffs.
Especially with March Madness right now, Dan, like the competitiveness of March Madness and then watching the NBA. It's hard to watch. It's just, It's not fun. There's no competition. We sort of know what teams are in and where they're going to be. And so we just got to get the playoffs started.
Absolutely. I wish that the season was 10 games shorter for a lot of reasons, but I feel like when you've had a season like this one, so many teams that are eliminated and it's just not competitive. It drags on. You feel like we could have started it already.
I think because teams were tanking from the All-Star break, like really since the All-Star break, it's been brutal. Some years it's more competitive to the end of the year, but that's just not the case this year. So we're going to let's talk about some playoffs. Before we get into teams that are frisky, who would you say are going to be in the finals this year?
Who do I have in the finals? Look, I'm pretty hard pressed to go past the Celtics in the East. I think we're seeing Tatum come back. He came back today, and Jaylen Brown is still huge. And I just think that's going to make them really hard to overcome. If Tatum is healthy, he's showing that he's building that. I think that they're probably the favorites, and they're who I pick, I think, going through the East. West is a little bit tougher for me, but I still think Oklahoma City. The Spurs, they're really exciting, but just more of a proven thing in Oklahoma. And of course, with SGA, who's probably, disappointingly so for me, going to win another MVP. I think, they'll be making it through.
Yeah, SGA, I would be shocked if he's not the MVP this year. I would like to see Wemby just because of the defensive end.
Yeah.
And today he had there were 7 minutes to go in the first half, and he had 25 and 12. He's just an automatic double-double, triple-double. He was playing a Warriors team that had 9 players on the injury report, but
wow.
He's just Spurs have won 10 in a row. Yeah, so I would agree. I would go Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Boston Celtics which would be a fun finals to watch. But let's have a chat about what teams have the most likelihood or sort of the puncher's chance to upset some of these top seeds. So top seeds I'm saying are, maybe you can agree with me or disagree. In the West, there's 3 teams. It's the Nuggets, the Spurs, and the Thunder. In the East, it's a little bit less solidified, but you've got the Celtics, probably the Knicks, and I would throw the Cavaliers unless I'm missing someone. Am I missing somebody in the East?
No, I don't think so. I think they're probably maybe just the Pistons, Celtics, and Knicks. I think.
Okay. So not the Cavs.
The Cavs you could throw in there now that they've got Mr. Harden, despite his finals, but
it's playoff struggles.
I think you could probably say they're pretty, the Nuggets have had their regular season struggles, but I think they're just, a veteran team that knows what they need to do now. And once the finals start, they'll kick into gear. But yeah,
so we're saying the top 4.
We're the top 4. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you do. Let's start in the East, Dan. Do you have a team in the East that you think could be frisky?
Look, I think there's 2, but one of them, and I've just got to start by saying Aussie, is the Atlanta Hawks.
Okay.
They're in such good form at the moment, and I'm a big fan of The old San Antonio Spurs. I loved watching the Spurs play in the finals because they were so different to all the other teams where they won championships off the back of no one averaging more than 20 points a game for their team. They just did it as a team. They worked as a unit. I love watching them. I think the Hawks have a little bit of that. You know, yes, they've got Johnson, who is like a walking triple double at the moment, but he's not scoring the lights out. He's contributing in so many ways, but his team are as well, which could be a double edged sword because at the same time in finals, you have those moments that need to be like seized by a star player. You have all the pressure on, the clutch scoring that's needed or clutch defense. And so often that decides finals. But I still like to see a team that plays as a unit succeed. And I think the Hawks have shown us that. They're probably the best formed team in the East at the moment with their record. They're like 20, let me see, since the All-Star break, these guys are 18-3, I want to say. 18-3
Yeah,
since the
okay.
All-Star break. Like they're flying. And I think it's a good time to find form. They got fitness. They kind of have a bit of everything. They got
Yeah.
bench contribution as well. So I think the Hawks, they're a really good team that could do a bit of damage. They really challenged the Celtics in the last couple of days. And I think they could do a bit of damage, but at the same time, the lack of like an out and out bona fide star could hurt them.
Yeah, so as it stands right now, they would be playing the Cavs in the first round. I hear what you're saying about the Hawks, and I do think they can be frisky. I'd just be interested to see what happens when they have to play more half-court offense and they have to slow down the game. They run
Mm,
they are so successful in transition and
mm.
turnovers and just running the floor, and that works in the regular season. But then again, Indiana, that was their style last year, and it worked
Yeah.
well for them. Just run and gun, get out in transition. It's like the 7 seconds offense for them. And can Atlanta do that? And then, like, they have a lot of guys, and in the playoffs, you typically will bring down your rotation to 8 guys. And who is going to be off? Like, is Kaminga gonna get time, or is he gonna he has proven time and time again that when teams can game plan for him, he's not as successful. So it'll
Mm.
be interesting to see in a high stakes moment like the playoffs if Kaminga can
Yeah,
rise
I
to the
think that
occasion.
that that's where like any of these outside chances, they're an outside chance for a reason. I think there's so many
For sure. Yeah.
reasons
Yeah.
we could talk. Like, I'm sure
They could
that
be frisky.
yeah, the top four. I'm sure the winners of the East are coming from there. But these guys, I think, I really like what they're doing. There's
Look,
probably
we might be on the same page on this next one. So tell me who your next one is.
in the East. Next one in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
East. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
In
look,
the East.
yeah, man. Look, I love the way the Hornets are playing. I don't know if that was
Okay.
your pick.
No, I would have had the Hornets above the Hawks, and then my next one's different.
Your next one, I think I know who they are, and I
All right.
can't choose them. There's just one
I
guy
know.
on there that I just wish him to not succeed as hard as I possibly can. Look, no, the Hornets, because I love what they're doing. They're just youthful. They're just full of energy and exuberance. They are shooting the lights out. Like they're doing like what Golden State Warriors used to do to teams with pushing how much the three ball was shot, which is just really fun. I think like if there's a team that they get matched up against that's struggling to defend the three or struggling, again, it's a turnover game for them. They have like the highest turnover differential in the league, the highest 3-point made differential in the league. If there's a team that they come up against that kind of struggles around the perimeter, the Pistons aren't great around the perimeter. They could push the Pistons a little bit, I think, and probably not get swept. But they're also young, so they could all just freeze up and it's four game series if they were to pull through the plans and find themselves up against the Pistons. So look, I love what they're doing, but yeah, for me, I've got the Hawks.
Do you know what the Hornets record was in the first 50 games?
No,
The Hornets started at 16-28.
yeah, it's pretty
Since
atrocious.
then, they've been 22-6. They are just a completely different team. They've gelled. I don't know, like LaMelo Ball seems to have matured and he can just
Yeah.
quarterback the team. He just seems
Yeah.
like he's not taking stupid shots. He
Mm.
recognized like that he's got other players that can get buckets quickly and he's just setting them up. And then he'll drive, like he'll get to the rim when he needs to. I love watching the Hornets. I think
Yeah.
they are the definition of a frisky team, I think.
Yeah. Because they could absolutely bomb out, or they could be a really scary sort of a team for people to come up against, just because they're full of energy, they're full of run, and they've got so much form on their backs at the moment as well. But look, whether it's this year and then they might even bomb out in the play-in, or like these guys have like OKC vibes with the young talent they're stacking. Like these guys will be around for a while. So I think the Hornets, we're just getting started with enjoying what they're doing.
So Dan, right now your Celtics are in second. Okay.
Yes.
There if so right and 8, 9, and 10 all have 40 wins right now. So there is a race in the Eastern Conference for the 7, 8, and then the 9, 10. But if things did not move right now,
Yes.
the Celtics could either play the Raptors or the Hornets based off. So if the Raptors and Hornets played, the winner of that game would get the 7 seed. Would you rather see Toronto or would you rather see Charlotte?
Look, I'd probably say Toronto, but at the same time, they're really good. They have some great players. They're just a different setup, probably one that Boston might be a little bit more prepared for than
Yeah.
the Hornets. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say, so yeah, my frisky teams in the East are Charlotte. And then every year I say this, I can never count out the 76ers.
Yeah.
They've had a roller coaster of a season. When Joel Embiid plays, he can still put up 30 to 40 points if he's on the floor. Paul George has had a nice rest, and when you're in your late 30s, having a rest, especially coming off of some PEDs, can help. And so he might be healthy. You've got Tyrese Maxey, you've got Edgecombe.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you want to see Philadelphia if you're New York. I just don't. Like, I don't trust New York at all.
Mm.
I have this thing where I just don't think you can win when your point guard is like a Jalen Brunson. New York Knicks fans can come at me. He's a player that drives me crazy. So maybe that's why I'm saying it. But Philadelphia, they've just got a lot of options. And Joel Embiid doesn't have to be the main guy. You can play through him sort of at that elbow and he can play make, but it's just a fun team.
It is a fun team. My favorite thing is seeing Joel Embiid lying on the floor. That's like not just playing on the floor, but he spent so much time rolling around calling for fouls. That's all he's going to do for me. But no, I do agree that if they put it all together, man, they've got a big three essentially with the experience George has. He's been a great finals performer. I just remember back to his Pacer days, and he was unbelievable. So if he can
When
be
he
healthy
played in the
and fit,
Pacers, he was. Yeah.
absolutely. So yes, they're a scary team. I agree. New York wouldn't want to see them. I still think that there's probably a little fitness niggle or two coming in for the Philadelphia 76ers. It's just the history that kind of you're going to see something happen that's going to derail things.
Yeah. Should we go to the West?
Oh, look, the West is probably the one I'm excited to talk about, which is weird. I'm a big Eastern fan, but I just think in the West, there's a bit of like nostalgia with the
Okay.
teams I think that could be doing this. Because in the East, like we talked, like the teams that I'd picked in the East, it's the way the team plays. But I think in the West, it's the opposite. It's like there's a couple of big name superstars, finals MVPs that are just going to chuck a team on their back and carry them. So look, first one I've got is the Houston Rockets. I think these guys, they've got the experience of KD. He's got 2 finals MVPs, 70 playoff games. So he's now sitting in the top echelon of finals games played. And in those games, he's just a production machine. So I think he's built for finals. He's going to score lots of points. I think Alperen Sengun has also lifted his performance when he's played finals. He hasn't got a lot of that, but he's another player that I think will be really good for this. The game slows down, so I think that the turnover factor for them, which has been a problem through the regular season, I think will be a little bit less of a big deal for them. They don't have a bona fide point guard. That's probably the big thing that I see them getting just undone by their playmaking of these two very tall, lanky guys. But I think that they've got certainly the interior defense. They're just I think they're a really good team. They'll be really hard to overcome if they can, continue as they have and with the experience of KD.
Yes. I have completely different feelings about the Rockets. I hear what you're saying. I'm just very like something is off in my opinion with this team. I've watched a little bit of them and they were a dumpster fire for the last 15 games. Really since the All-Star break, since Kevin Durant and his burner account fiasco. Everything I don't think Udoka is a good X's and O's coach. I don't think he makes good adjustments and they can't shoot. Kevin Durant and Reed Shepherd can, but nobody else on that starting five can knock down a shot. So Kevin Durant, he'll get double teamed, he'll get blitzed. I'm noticing that when other players have the ball, instead of going to an open space, Kevin Durant is just running towards that player that has the ball to do a handoff every time. I don't know. I could see, especially if it's a Denver Rockets series, which is what it would be right now. Look, the Lakers and the Nuggets right now are 1 game separated. And really, so Lakers have 50 wins, Nuggets 49, Rockets 47, Timberwolves 46. So the 3, 4, 5, 6 sort of things can change a lot. I don't know. If I'm the Rockets, I'm praying that I don't see Denver and that LA slips, even though LA has Luka. But just defensive, I just think Nuggets aren't a great defensive team. But I know we're having a frisky conversation, but for the Rockets, if I'm the Nuggets and I sort of want to see the Rockets more than my team, which is the Minnesota Timberwolves.
There you go. Tell us about the Timberwolves. What?
Sorry to dump on your parade there. Sorry to dump on your team, but we got to have this back and forth here.
We go.
Maybe people can comment who's right here.
Yeah.
I did a video, does Houston regret trading for Kevin Durant? And I just wonder if they sort of wish they didn't make that trade. Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that Anthony Edwards, in my opinion, is a top 5 player in the NBA. Who would I put in my top? Would you agree with this top 5? You have to put SGA or Jokic are interchangeable in my opinion. So they're 1, 2, whatever order you want. Currently.
Yeah.
I would put Wemby at 3 right now. I think Wemby's the 3rd best player in the NBA. Luka at and then I'm putting Anthony Edwards at 5. And look, a healthy Kawhi could have an argument to get in there. Kawhi Leonard, who spoiler alert, is my second Frisky team.
Me too.
But Anthony Edwards, he can just turn it on, and he's just got this engine that goes. And you've still got Rudy Gobert. You've still got Julius Randle, who has been really bad, but I think he can find his form. I think this is a big year for Chris Finch, their coach.
Yeah.
I wonder if they are an early knockout, if he is on the hot seat as a coach, and maybe they look for a replacement. But I just think in the playoffs, Anthony Edwards has the ability to take over a game, maybe more so than Kevin Durant right now.
Yeah, I think I was tossing up between going with the Timberwolves as one of these. I do think, you've got Ant he's got that mentality, that clutch, calm, like I'm going to do this sort of a mentality that I think really does pay off in the finals.
Yeah.
I do think there's probably I have doubts around the cast around him. And I think if you can take away his production, like I just have doubts as to how much they're going to get from the others around him, especially if it is, they're coming up against high scoring team. Can they put up enough points?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what
around.
they picked up Ayo Dosunmu at the trade deadline, who's a good sixth man. He comes off the bench. He's sort of replacing, I think it was Anthony Walker that left last
Mhm.
year. I think that was his name. And then, like I said, so it'd be Anthony Edwards, Dante DiVincenzo, who can get hot from three and is also a scrappy defender, Randall, Gobert, and I don't know who they're Naz Reid off the bench. I like their team. I think they've had injuries this year,
Yeah,
but so you say Houston, which really these two teams, like you can't go wrong saying either of these would be frisky, but people would, if people have watched sort of this show earlier on this season, Dan, I owned an island. Before anybody owned this island, I owned the Phoenix Sun Island. I'm not choosing Phoenix as my second team. Like I said, I'm choosing the Clippers just because Kawhi Leonard is an absolute animal in the playoffs. And if he's healthy,
yeah,
you've got a chance.
yeah. No, I fully agree on this one. The Clippers absolutely the second choice for me. I think, yeah, like he's just a beast. He's got 2 Finals MVPs that looked very, very different. You know, in the first one, he scored 14 points a game and still won a Finals MVP. Like
He was
completely
known as a
different.
defensive master.
Yeah. And then he went and did the same, all of his other stat line looked exactly the same. He just started scoring points. So I think like he's, as you said, a master. And I think any team, they're looking, going, I don't want to play the Clippers. Like I really don't want to come up against Kawhi, especially if they're, the 3 or the 4 or even, the shooting guards. Like they're not going to want to have to overcome Kawhi at both ends of the court. I think when he's healthy, easily a top 3 kind of two-way player in the NBA. He's just fantastic.
Yeah. And then they also added Darius Garland. And I think that trade is looking really good for the
Yeah.
Clippers. James Harden obviously has had his struggles in the playoffs, and Darius Garland is less of a ball controlling player. And I think the offense flows. They also got Benedict Mathurin
Yeah.
from that Zubac trade that they did to Indiana, and he's just a high energy, high intensity player.
Yeah.
They've got Brooke Lopez. Ty Lue, I think, is the greatest matchup coach in the him and Spoelstra. I would say is the greatest matchup coach. I really value coaching when it comes to the playoffs, and having Ty Lue, I think, is an asset. So, but just my memories of Kawhi, like, do the Golden State Warriors become who they are if Kawhi Leonard doesn't get hurt? Remember the Zaza Pachulia
Yeah. I remember it.
play?
I
Yeah.
remember it.
Like, did the Warriors win that series if Kawhi, he just has that much impact on a game where he single-handedly can win a series for you if he's hot.
Yeah, no, I couldn't
So,
agree more on the Clippers. I think they're a scary one. They do have to make it through the play-in, but I don't think there's too many doubts around them doing that.
yeah, I mean, look out though. Golden State Warriors 4-6 in our last 10, lost 2 in a row.
Cooked.
Look,
Look, I have a
man.
note here. I have a note here about the Golden State Warriors. You want to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Look, we're talking sleepers, but I thought I just wanted to throw out a couple of teams I think are absolutely cooked. And the Golden State Warriors are one of those. I think, like, we got to start talking about, where does Steph Curry end his career? Does he end it as a Golden State Warrior? Do they cash in? And do they go, Steph, you want to win? We want picks. And let's do, what they did properly a little while ago, rebuild. I'm fully joking, and I'd be very surprised if they did it. But I think the time is near, my friend. The time is near for these Golden State Warriors to enter a
Dan
new
Coates.
era.
Let me just, all right, 2026-27. We're turning injuries off on 2K here. We're turning injuries off. This is the Warriors roster next year. We've got Steph Curry.
Yep.
We've got DeAnthony Melton. We've got, at some point, Moses Moody. At some point, Jimmy Butler. We've got not Brandon Pajemski. We've got Kristaps Porzingis. We got Draymond Green. I'm hoping we've got LeBron James. Maybe we get Giannis too. Warriors, champions next year.
Wounded Warriors. Yeah, turn those injuries off. That's exactly what you got to do. Look, if they can do that, they're just milking it and milking every bit of this Steph Curry era to try and get what they can out of it. And look, that's the name of the game. You have to try and win championships and then go back to building things. And if they can do that, great. I have doubts around that. As you said, real life isn't a video game.
They're going to make the playoffs this year.
That's your call? At the expense of your son?
Sorry?
At the expense of the Suns?
Well, yeah, here's what's going to happen. Yes, at expense of my Suns. The Clippers are going to beat the Suns. There is a chance that it's a Clippers-Warriors 9-10, but I'm guessing Portland will stay at 9 and Clippers will stay at 8. So Clippers will beat the Suns, Warriors will beat the Trailblazers, and then the Warriors will beat the Suns. And then the Warriors will play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. And who knows what happens? Maybe we steal a game. I don't know. Maybe a gentleman's sweep. Gentleman's sweep.
What's a gentleman's sweep? Okay.
Maybe that's a hockey term. It's you allow the other team to get one win. So it's a 4-1 series.
I put a line through them when Jimmy Butler kind of went down, unfortunately. He's a scary playoffs player. Like, he has had some unbelievable performances, but unfortunately for the fans like you, he's not in it. I can't see it happening too much.
Dan, we just haven't seen what the Warriors are. We haven't seen Porzingis and Steph Curry play together, and Porzingis is looking a lot better. Like, he's getting his feet. He's making shots. He can match up against players like Wemby and players like Jokic, not like super well, but he's got the length, right? He can match up against Chet. And then, I don't know. I think they're dangerous.
Yeah, look, if they get everyone on the court, danger. As you said, some good matchups there for them to try and exploit, and the experience, I think, will be absolutely, it'll be invaluable to have Steph on the court leading things.
The Warriors are not cooked. The Warriors, it's like my favorite line from the movie Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a chance? There's always a chance.
Ever the optimist. I had another team down as cooked, and that was Miami. I'd be very happy to call Miami cooked. I think it's just...
Is that because you're afraid of them?
It's not because I'm afraid of them. I don't think there's a lot of fear about any team that allows as many points as they are. Like, you're just going to be able to beat them because, like, they cannot defend. They can score a lot of points, but the worst defensive rating of any of the teams that are still around, like, line through them.
So those are your two cooked teams, Dan. I have a category that I didn't prepare you with. We're going to say one team from each conference, if that's okay. The two most disappointing teams in the NBA this year. Who would you say? Yeah. So both, one from the West, one from the East. I can start if you need to think, but I've got my two teams.
Look, I have a West and East. East is being a bit brittle, but yeah, sure.
All right, who's your West? Because
look, for me in the West, it starts with the entire organization, and it's the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I just, yeah. Well, I was all behind them. Luka was the man, and Mark Cuban, I've already seen a few things from him about how much he regrets letting go of the Mavericks, and I'm sure that it was a lot for him to carry, but man, have they dropped the ball since he passed it on to that whole organization. So the players, probably not. I mean, Cooper Flag's likely going to get himself a Rookie of the Year award, and it's very deservingly. He's a fantastic player. Their future is bright, but man, oh man, that organization is not one I'd want to be playing for.
Do you want me to go East?
Oh yeah, you go East.
Here's
first.
my
We'll see.
Yeah, right. There is only one team that can be this disappointing, and that's the Orlando Magic. This team was so hyped this year.
Yes.
Everybody was saying they're going to be the 3 seed, like they're going to be a top team in the NBA when they traded for Desmond Bane,
Yeah.
overpaid for Desmond Bane, and something's not right. Their coach is done. Something
Mm,
like Paolo Banchero, I just don't think is him. I don't think he has the ceiling people thought. Franz Wagner has been in and out of the lineup. Jalen
yeah.
Suggs has disappeared at times, and Desmond Bane, his wingspan is just too short to be a star in the NBA. Man, he's got the smallest arms, but you're the 9 seed. Like, I just think they're 2-8 in the last 10, and
Mm,
they were a fun up and coming team last year because of their defense. And I do think that defensive minded coaches lose their locker room. I just I don't think certain NBA players and teams want to be pushed like that. And
mm.
so you lose your locker room because you're pushing and you're challenging them. It's sort of like Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau never really lost his locker room, but it's that sort of intensity and focused and pushing your players to the max like that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to choose the Magic, but I think I have to as well. I do agree with you on that one. It's just such a disappointment. And I do think if Wagner was around a bit more, they might have had a bit more success towards the end of the season. But look, the other players that you mentioned, very disappointing. And then, yeah, little T-Rex arms has just not been worth what he's been paid. It's, yeah,
T-Rex, that's a great nickname for him. I
yeah.
haven't heard if that's common, if that's like common knowledge, I'm glad I know now. If it's not, you got to take credit for that.
Look, that one was, I've never heard it anywhere else. I fully agree with his stature.
Who are you going to go in the East, Dan?
I was going to say, I'm just disappointed with where the Bucks have ended. But it's probably more health. That's
Yeah.
why I was saying it was probably a brutal choice to say I was disappointed in the Bucks. But look, it's disappointing to see them crash to where they have. The last couple of seasons have not been great after so much success, and obviously, will Giannis be there? That's not what you want to see for a team to crash that hard. But yeah, I disappointing to see them not even in the play-in.
Yeah. They're 30 and 46
Yeah,
and they don't have much to play for at this point. All right. As we wrap this up, Dan, I've got one more category. It's a fitting
shoot.
way to end it. I want to talk about the worst run franchises in the NBA. And because I didn't prep you, I will give you what I think and we'll just talk about them. Okay. So I'm going to start in the West because I'm passionate about this. The Sacramento Kings are not only the worst run franchise in the NBA, I think they're the worst run franchise in all of sports. Like what this organization has done is criminal. They
Mm,
have been bad my entire life. The last time they were good before, obviously, the Light the Beam team was, I think, when they had Chris Webber.
yeah.
DeMarcus Cousins' team sort of did all right, but they Tyreek Evans draft fell through. Like he was a bit of a bust. But you had a young up and coming team. You had the whole city, the whole NBA on notice about this team. You were getting nationally televised games. You had De'Aaron Fox, you had Malik Monk, you had Sabonis, who you got a free Sabonis. You had Barn, like this was a fun team that was in the playoffs. You had the coach of the year and Mike Brown. None of those that team is disbanded. And what did they do? They went and got all the players from the Chicago Bulls that couldn't succeed in Chicago. They frustrate me so bad. They should take the team off the owners and sell it to someone like Mark Cuban.
Look, the NBA's talked like expansion recently, and I just think they have to move the Kings. Like, just move them on.
Don't just move them out of that ownership group. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Las Vegas has been crying out for a basketball team. Move them there. Find some rich dude in Las Vegas. Maybe it's Mark Cuban to take him on. But
Or Seattle. Go to Seattle.
yes, John. I understand you're very passionate. to see Seattle have a team. So let's say yes. Let's go with this
Well,
Seattle.
Seattle's more likely than Las Vegas, in my opinion. That's all. Keep
I'd say
going.
so. No, they probably are. But yeah, fully agree. Look, can I throw in some others in the West?
The worst run franchise. I see potential for one other. Yeah, go.
Potential for one other in the West. And I've just got to say, I don't know why these guys ever became a team. The New Orleans Pelicans, like, I just think you've got to give there should have been a faster moving on from a certain star that really didn't come on, and he didn't show that he had the attitude and the mentality to be a professional superstar. He wasn't going to put in the work to do that, and they've just not been able to build. I think that there's been a lot of failure there, and probably will continue to be, because they're not going to get the best of draft picks. Most likely, they're just they've been there and thereabouts, just below the play in a couple of seasons. You want to tank hard, or you want to actually start building something, and they've just not done that.
Yeah, they don't have a draft pick. So like tanking made no sense, because they're just tanking for the benefit of other people if they tank this year. And Zion, you're right. They've had some good players, right? They had Anthony Davis, and they were competitive with the Anthony Davis team and Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Zion Williamson, surprisingly, has played consistently the second half of the year, but they're still 25 and 51. So I'll agree. The only pushback I have with Zion is, and you were right, you said they didn't move on quick enough, but every team in the NBA, if they would have had the first overall pick that draft, would have chosen Zion.
Yes,
100%. But he has such a low value now that you can't trade him for much pieces. So like not many teams are going to take a risk on Zion. All right, let's go to the East. I agree with you with the Pelicans. They are not at Kings level, but they are a poor run organization. And I don't think they're a basketball city. They're a football city, right? New Orleans football. I think their owners own the football team as well. And I think obviously probably put more of their investments into their NFL team, because you probably get a better return on investment. In the East, how does a market like Chicago have such a bad franchise? That is, again, criminal. Let's go back to the times of Michael Jordan. They get rid of Michael Jordan, and they had a couple of years with Derrick Rose, right? Then Derrick Rose got injured, but that wasn't too long of a period. That was like 3 years. And so they have been, again, just so poor. They don't pay extra money. They don't go into the tax. They're a cheap organization who are in one of the 3 major markets in the NBA, or 4 major markets in the NBA, who have the legacy of Michael freaking Jordan. And this is what you're producing. You're producing a Josh Giddey led team, who I'm not, no shade at Josh Giddey, but can't we do better? Like, you are an attractive market. Pay some players some money and make better choices, Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I think like they've just made the decision to kind of start again. They've made the decision to move on from some of the big names, that leaving Giddey there as the kind of the main man. But even still, they haven't gone hard enough to tank. They've finished with a reasonable record. That means a really far outside chance of getting a top 5 pick. Like, it still isn't making a whole lot of sense. I think they have a 4.5% chance of getting the number 1 pick. But like, I don't think that they've done rebuild properly either. Being a Josh Giddey fan, I want to see him do well, but I don't know if this organization is like, they're just not on the right track with this at all. They're not here or there. They're not rebuilding. They're not building and succeeding.
I think there's a lot of organizations that could use Josh Giddey. Like we talked about the Rockets, Josh Giddey. I wouldn't mind Josh Giddey on it with a Rockets uniform. Magic, because I don't think he's going to be there long term. I don't think I think they got to get rid of him and really go into a rebuild because you're gonna win some games with Josh Giddey on your team. Even Minnesota let Ant
Mm.
play the 2 again and put him at the point guard, but yeah, at least they got rid of Vooch this year, and you got him, so
We
your
got
team
him,
got
and
him.
I don't know that I've seen him play a game yet. Like
He's out.
although I
Maybe.
really want him to play too much. Like we've seen, Nimius Queta has been huge. He's been great.
I
So
wonder why, and maybe you know, Dan, why did they get rid of Simons?
I'm not sure. Like Simons is. You mentioned that, like the thing about defensive-minded coaches. Simons is not a defensive-minded guy, and I just don't know if there was a great fit if you're not willing to defend.
Yeah,
That would probably be.
maybe. I mean, he helped them get to a top 3 seed without their star player, and so I think if you can do that, I wonder if there wasn't enough rotational minutes for those positions, and that's why, like, because Tatum was coming back.
Yeah, yeah. I think with Tatum coming back, and I think at that point he'd probably shown progress enough for them to say, "We think Tatum's coming back." We've got a few other guards that have shown they can shoot the ball, which with the other players around, the ability to shoot and defend and kind of be a pest was what was needed, I think. And so I think they probably made that decision. And I would say that I think it's worked out for them.
Where did Anthony Simons go?
I believe he went to the
And I'm
Bulls.
no, I think he got past. I think it was like a must have been a 3-teamer because he's not on the Bulls anymore. Boston Bulls. He is. Okay. I didn't see him on the roster. Is he? Anyhow, he's not on the Celtics anymore. But yes, Dan, anything else you want to say in the club before we sign off?
Mate, I just want to know. Look, I'm looking forward to the finals. I think it's going to be really good. The only thing I'm worried about is that there's another thing going on called the World Cup that is crossover, and I'm really concerned for my sleep. So, look, if you don't hear from me, it's because I'm glued to a couple of screens as basketball, as football, and yeah, just a sports overload.
Is the World Cup in North America this year?
It is. It is between the 3 North American countries, and that's going to be really funny to see how that all pans out. But yeah, I believe
Yeah.
there's games in Canada and Mexico, but the majority probably in the USA.
Yeah. So who's your team? Is it just Australia?
I'm in Australia, but usually I have to pick a second because they're around for just a handful of games before crashing out. Look, I'd usually probably back it in England or Germany, but
Yeah.
there's some really fun teams to watch. They've gone to 48 teams this year. They've expanded
Okay.
the tournament. But you know what? There's still no room for Italy, so I'm kind of happy about that. Got some bad blood with the Italians.
Why?
Well, there's a 2006 match between Australia and Italy that didn't go very well, and there were some pretty poor choices that were made. We just haven't gone along since then. But I'm looking forward to the World Cup. If you've got time for Club Clutch to explore the world of football, hit me up.
I will. I'll have to do some research because I haven't paid attention to World Cup soccer since Ronaldinho played for Brazil, and I think that was like 2005.
Yes, you're right. There you go.
So, does Cristiano Ronaldo still play international soccer or
He'll
football?
probably, yeah, he'll make some appearances for Portugal for sure.
All right, what do you think? Do you think this is probably another topic for another time, but players, Cristiano Ronaldo, he's like 41, I think, and LeBron James is turning 41, and Tom Brady played till what, 45. Are we going to see a 50-year-old professional athlete in the next 10 years?
Do you consider golf professional sport?
No, physically demanding sports. So no like NASCAR driving or anything like that. So let's just say baseball, football, basketball, soccer.
Not hockey. Okay. I probably could have seen a goaltender in hockey playing pretty late. Look, I could see a quarterback or a kicker sticking around that long in
Yeah.
the NFL. Probably not in the NBA. It just keeps getting faster and faster. But at the same time, is it physically demanding in all the ways that it used to be? It's probably just changed. So if, there's a bloke out there who can keep himself, I think that if he can keep his flexibility and like a joint, keep the soft tissue injuries at bay. You don't have to be the biggest, strongest bloke to be successful in the NBA anymore. You've got to be able to move and shoot. And I think that we could see that. Who knows?
Well, I think we're going to actually, I'm just looking at this. We might see it sooner than later. This isn't in the sports that I just listed off, but there's going to be a fight most likely between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. And Floyd Mayweather is 49, and he'll be 50 by that time, I think. So, yeah.
Is Pacquiao not 50?
Manny Pacquiao. No, Floyd Mayweather's older than him. He's only 47, but 49.
Look, that was probably one of the last fights I ever actually remember caring about. I haven't really paid too much attention to boxing. But when they fought last time, this big build-up and the most disappointing fight I can ever remember watching. It was so boring and awful. And
it wasn't more disappointing than Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. That was brutal.
I just think that all combat sports now have more going for them in the reality TV side of things than they do as like an actual legitimate competition.
Yeah. Well, science and medical professionals are making athletes last a lot longer. And while that's happening, leagues are wanting to make the sports easier, with shortened seasons, less contact. So maybe we will see like a 60-year-old. Who knows? But Dan, that's all the time we have in the club. Thanks for joining me. And